Can we redact my name dropping of don't support them? I don't know why I think that as an example. We literally stayed in one ever, and don't support them.
Okay, we're trying. I totally get that. We're always trying to tell our relatives and that don't stay there. Don't.
They're evil.
My wife's got relatives who are always like, "Oh, you've got to go to the," and no.
Yeah, that is never my first option. We literally stayed in one once, and I forget the reasoning, but it was our last option, and that was just, Generally, I'd rather just crash with people. I mean, if we can just find somewhere free to crash, that's the ideal. But I think at this point in time, it's more ethical to just get a shitty motel room than it is to support. If that's what we had to do, that would be more likely. Yeah.
I'm Colin Burrows, and this is the Woodstein Media Podcast, episode 16. This podcast is produced on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Anishinaabe, and Odawa peoples. This episode features Bonez Poley, a one-of-a-kind personality who has spent a lot of time in the Ontario punk and metal scenes. They have now immersed themselves in the Toronto comedy scene. Bonez' debut stand-up album will be available at the end of May. Catch the release party at Comedy Bar on May 30th. This podcast and Woodstein Media are independently produced journalism that you can support through Patreon or by donating through PayPal at Wood-stein.ca. That's WOOD-STEIN.ca. Thanks for your interest and support. If you enjoy this podcast, you can support it by listening to more episodes and liking, sharing, subscribing, or reviewing them. Tell everyone who you are and how you'd like to be described. What do you do?
I'm Bonez Poley. I'm a stand-up comedian, primarily. I've done a little bit of everything. I've been a multidisciplinary artist for a long time. I did visual art for many years. I played in bands for many years. I've done some writing, a lot of different stuff, but comedy has been my focus for quite a while now. It continues to be my main focus at the moment. So I guess that's, primarily I'm a stand-up comedian right now.
Okay. Okay. Well, then we'll jump right into talking about, you've got a release date now for your stand-up album?
Yeah. Yeah, so May 30th.
When people get that on May 30th, number one, what are they going to discover on that? What are they going to hear? And is it audio or video?
Both. So we recorded the audio and video. I'm releasing the audio album it'll be on all the streaming platforms. And I'm also doing a limited run of cassettes of the audio album. Okay. And they'll have, side A will be my comedy album, and the B side will be my most recent EP, the Pisser Breaking Chains EP.
Awesome. That was Willing Victim by Pisser. Check out the episode description wherever you're listening to this for links to get the music I've played. But, as Bonez said, Pisser will be on the flip side of their comedy album.
The audio album will come out in physical format, and then the video album I think is just going to be online. It'll probably just go straight to YouTube. I debated. I was going to do DVDs of the video special, and I kind of waffled back and forth on that because I know most people don't buy physical copies of things these days. And I feel like punks still do. And that's why I decided to go with the cassette tapes, because I know me and all my friends still collect all the vinyl and tapes and stuff, but I feel like DVDs might be a harder sell. Yeah. So I wasn't sure like where to go with that. I know some people will release albums online and it'll be like you can pay to buy the digital version or pay to stream it or whatever. But given that I'm kind of at a point in my comedy where this is my first album. Not a ton of people know me yet, so I'm leaning towards just putting it up for free and getting it into as many people's home screens as possible for now.
On the video side of that, I noticed that was all your first 4 or 5 years material that you performed that night, and some of it was already up on YouTube. Like, I know I had your previous article connected to the one about work and...
Oh, right. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. I understand why you did that.
Well, and that one actually... So basically, the album is a culmination of the first 10 years worth of stuff that I've been writing and working on. But the way that goes is the jokes tend to evolve as they go along. So jokes that I wrote 10 years ago are completely different jokes now. It's like the premise is similar and there's some similar pieces to the overall joke, but obviously the more I practice it and the better I get as a comedian, the more that the joke evolves and develops. And so part of the reason I took down some of my early videos is just because they don't reflect well where I'm at now, skill-wise. But the reason I took that particular one down was actually because I had submitted a similar set to that to a comedy festival a little while ago. And they had a stipulation where if they accepted your set, it can't have already been posted anywhere. So, and it wasn't the exact same set I was submitting to them. It was some of the same jokes and some different stuff, but it was close enough that, you know, if they were to look into it and see if I already had it up, I wouldn't want that to be the thing that disqualified me. So that's why I ended up deciding to take that one down. And then, at this point, I'm not sure. Like, I think probably when I post the full special, I'll probably take down all my old footage, because theoretically anything in the special is the better version of whatever's already up there, and it's recorded in better quality and just, you know, is a more complete product. So I think at this point I'd rather direct people to that than have them watching my old, you know, amateur videos.
Did you get, like, I was pretty much front row for that. Did you?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I can sue. If I
Well, I did tell everybody we were recording. Pretty sure there was even signage that was posted around, so I think that gets us out of any legal troubles. But there's no actual shots of the audience, or I think there's like one or two, but they're blurry. So it was mostly, there was a camera at the back on a tripod that was pointed at just at me, and I guess the backs of people's heads, silhouetted backs of people's heads. And then I had the guy filming the special was also floating around with a camera, so he got a few different angles, but they're mostly from the back of me or from like the side of the stage. But yeah, it's not like a full-blown Netflix quality special where we're cutting to well-lit, well-focused shots of the crowd. Like, that's next special, we'll get there. Okay. But for now, you can probably hear your laugh, and that's about it.
And we did laugh. It was a funny set. Aww. It was great to be there.
Thank you.
I do need a dick, though. And not just any dick, not a penis bong dick, not like your dick. No offense. No, I just want my own. I want my very own dick that's attached to my own body. I want it primarily for the ability to rock a piss. Right? Whenever and wherever I damn well please. Those of you here tonight who are the fortunate owners of your very own dicks might or might not realize just how fucking easy you have it. You guys gotta piss. You don't even stop what you're doing, do ya? You just turn around. Like, you can still keep the conversation going with your buddies. You're like, oh yeah, sports and stuff. You can still hit that joint that's going around. You're like, oh yeah. Thanks, man. Oh. Just shake her off, zip her up, carry on with your day. Ain't no thing. Those of us who are less fortunate, it's a whole ordeal, isn't it? First, you gotta find somewhere discreet, which is probably behind a dumpster. Then, you gotta drop trow, right down to your ankles, completely exposing yourself from the waist down. And then, you gotta pop a squat. And once you're down here, there are a number of factors working against you. The stream is now headed for this foot. Your pants are already around your ankles, you're already struggling to maintain balance, and now you're doing this weird basketball pivot. But while your attention was over there, you neglected the defense over here, and the splashback is now coming up all over this guy. So now you're trying to do some quick trigonometry to calculate the exact angle at which you've got to bank it to get it away from you and into these people's faces. But you were never very good at math or sports. So by the end of this, you're inevitably just covered in piss, head to toe. Most of which is not even your own, because you're behind a dumpster, and let's be real, half a dozen people have already rocked a piss in this exact spot today. It's a nightmare. So I came up with a solution one time, though. I was at a music festival with some friends. We had to piss. My one buddy, who is the fortunate owner of their very own dick, he just casually sauntered over to some trees, did their business, carried on. My girlfriend and I, not so fortunate. The porta potties are a mile away. There's not a dumpster in sight. So I came up with a plan. Decided I was gonna make us our own dicks out of beer cups. Yeah, you know those plastic Solo cups? Took out my pocket knife, cut a little hole in the bottom, made it a little funnel. Made one for her, one for me. Brilliant, right? So now we casually and somewhat smugly saunter over to the trees with our newfound dicks. Zip her down, place her there, let her rip. Brilliant, right? No. These things acted much less like a funnel, much more like a splatter shield. There is now piss coming up all over us. We are now screaming bloody murder, ripping our pants down, whipping piss-filled cups through the air. People are taking pictures. They wound up on the internet. I put them there. Made it my profile picture on Facebook. So follow me on social media, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. I don't know.
And you mentioned that Pisser is going to be on the other side of that tape. Are you doing anything more with Pisser at the moment, or is it?
No, not these days. We had gone on hiatus before the pandemic, and it's been a very extended hiatus. But I think at this point, I'm really happy to be focusing on just comedy. I think in the past, I've had a tendency to spread myself really thin. And I'm one of those people who's just, my energy's constantly exploding in a billion different directions. And I always have all these different ideas and all these different passions. And that's a fun way to be. And it's great. It's fun to get a lot of stuff done. But I think where that has failed me is I was often kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. And I think where I'm at with comedy right now is I would like to be a master of at least one thing. And I think I've come a long way with my comedy and I'm feeling really good about it. And I'm feeling like if I continue on this trajectory, then, you know, I could theoretically actually make a living off this and maybe take it further than that. So that's where I'm at right now. And I think also now that I live in Toronto, it's even harder to be in a band here than it is anywhere else because the cost of even just a jam space, let alone anything else, is like absurd these days. So that'll remain a back burner thing for the foreseeable future.
Connected to the comedy, you had been saying or hinting at acting connected to that. Is there anything happening that way? Yeah.
So that's still something I'm keeping open. And so there's been a little bit, like there's already a bit of overlap, obviously, with acting and comedy. It's a performance. When it comes to comedy writing, I'm becoming increasingly interested in writing sketch type stuff as well as stand-up. So obviously there's some acting involved in that. And I have been working on co-writing a TV show with a group of comedians. I remember last time I hinted at a secret. I wasn't really at liberty to talk about it yet. And I still can't say much about it, but there is a TV show in the works. And that'll be really cool. So the show is a friend of mine. It's his concept, but there's a group of us that are working on it together, and I'm actually writing a character who I'll be playing. So that's very exciting. In the meantime, I've been auditioning for just like random like commercials and stuff. I have yet to land one, but that would just be some nice extra money and, extra experience on camera. It all kind of ties together. So
I'm curious about that show, which you said you can't talk too much about. How close is that to a reality that most of us will see, or is it?
It's going to happen one way or another. We've just been kind of figuring out, I guess, which avenues we want to go as far as whether we want to shoot the pilot first, pitch it around, see if somebody will pick it up, or just shoot the whole season ourselves, like the first season ourselves, and go from there and see if somebody wants to pick it up from there. There's a bunch of different factors as to why we might decide to go in one direction or the other, but it's going to happen either way. So it's just a matter of deciding how it's going to happen. But plan is to start filming at the very least some kind of trailer in the very near future. So
nowadays, if you do end up filming it yourself, that's very possible to do and do a good job with, the way technology has gone in the
totally
years.
And then you retain a lot more creative control, right? So yeah, that would be one very good reason to do it that way.
In the article I did before, we ended up talking about like moving away from both your music and your comedy to more serious issues that you were involved in. But in the article, a lot of it was St. Catharines focused. Are you still an active person in Toronto, or have you?
I would say much less so these days. I still have very staunch ethics when it comes to the way that I live my life and the things that I choose to support or affiliate myself with. But as far as like actively going out and fighting on the front lines for anything, it's been a while for me. And it's for a number of reasons, but for the majority of my life, I was kind of putting everything and everyone else before myself. And I think that's a good way to be. I think that's how, people should be. But there was a period where I had a lot of personal issues going on. I had a really serious illness that almost killed me. And I had a period of homelessness. And I've had a series of just absolute shit to wade through for a while. And so I kind of finally gave myself, I don't know, like I just allowed myself to feel like it was okay to just prioritize myself for a minute. And so that's kind of where I'm still at, is I'm still recovering health-wise. Like I'm still not at 100%. So I still need more downtime than most people do, and still have a lot of days where I'm just really not feeling great. And so for me to take care of myself and then also get anywhere with my career, not to mention that I'm not making a living off stand-up yet, and I'm living in Toronto. So I've got 18 side hustles just to pay the bills. So juggling all of that and then finding time to like go out and be as much of an activist as I used to be or as I want to be is just not really reasonable for me to put on myself right now. I mean, that said, I still do consider myself an activist in the sense that I don't do anything that I don't think is ethical. I still really think about like my purchases and who I'm affiliating myself with in regards to like my comedy or to anything else. And I still feel like the things that I'm saying with my comedy are, meaningful and thought-provoking. I mean, I still do small things. Like I do what I can when I can. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever stop really being an activist. I just can't be like the biggest activist all of the time forever.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask that then, like whether it was something that showed up more in your writing and your comedy in the themes you talk about, or because I mean nowadays most of the time comedians really try to work their own. Are you frozen?
No, I'm still here.
Okay, you were so still. It was
hanging on your word.
Zoom. Yeah, no, but like, yeah, comedians really a lot of the time. That's, I don't know, they're the new philosophers, or they really get their ideas into the conversation through their art. And so, is that one way you are still very active?
I would say definitely. Yeah. And I think my approach to comedy writing is similar that my approach always was to music writing. Also, side note, I think it's worth mentioning that I always make the differentiation between my music and my comedy as though my music wasn't comedy. Every band I've ever been in has been comedic to some extent, if not of the fullest extent. But when it came to my lyric writing, I would have some songs that were really serious, that were very much about social and political issues and philosophical ideas, and really, delving deep into these things that I was passionate about. And then I would have other songs that were like just pure silliness, just about like harassing my bass player on a camping trip, whatever.
That frenetic burst of energy was Camping by Pisser.
My approach to my stand-up comedy has been very similar, where I have some bits that are definitely more overtly political, that are like, this is obviously about, societal injustices, and then other bits that are more like, this is just ridiculous. But what I have noticed emerging, the more I kind of look back and analyze my own writing, is even the bits that I see as totally absurdist always end up having some kind of a political or social undertone to them, because that's just who I am. So like, even like I have a bit where I'm like talking about my death goals, which is just a funny idea in and of itself. Most people have life goals. I have death goals. Here's all the ways in which I want to die or whatever. But it's like, but then I dissect like, well, here's what's absurd about our current practices surrounding death. And, and shouldn't we think twice about this? And why is this okay and this isn't? And so even though I'm being so ridiculous, I still can't help but be like, okay, but guys, like, let's think about this.
So what is the future for Bonez that you can talk about? Is there going to be any comedy tours outside of Toronto?
Yeah, that's the plan for sure. I do really miss touring. That's one thing I miss about being in a band. And I have done a bit of touring with comedy, but not since before the pandemic. So the past year has definitely just been getting settled in Toronto and just getting like a foothold here before, trying to worry too much about anything outside of here. But now that I'm getting that and starting to feel like I have figured out my place here and sort of had a minute to catch my breath, I'm definitely looking forward to booking some tours. I've got friends scattered all across the continent. Like, I'd love to just get out and see everybody. Yeah. And just like experience, different places and different people. It's always a fun time. So definitely on the horizon.
So are you picturing kind of like a one-person punk rock tour?
I'd probably put it together with at least one other comic, if not a couple. The last proper comedy tour I did with two other comics, which was a good setup because we took turns headlining each night and took turns hosting each night. So whoever was the first comic up would also come back in between comics. So they'd do a set off the top and then introduce the other two. And then we'd switch. So then the next night that guy would be headlining and I'd be opening or whatever. And so it worked out well because we all got to do a bit of everything, but it's like you have a lot of control over the tour when you just bring your own show and you're the whole show start to finish. And also it helps with just like, travel costs, right? You can split the gas with the or whatever. And it's can we redact my name dropping? Don't support them. I don't know why I think that as an example. We literally stayed in one ever, and don't support them.
Okay, we're trying. I totally get that. We're always trying to tell our relatives and that don't stay there. Don't. They're evil. My wife's got relatives who are always like, "Oh, you've got to go to the." And no. Yeah,
that is never my first option. We literally stayed in one once, and I forget the reasoning, but it was our last option, and that was just, Generally, I'd rather just crash with people. I mean, if we can just find somewhere free to crash, that's the ideal. But I think at this point in time, it's more ethical to just get a shitty motel room than it is to support. If that's what we had to do, that would be more likely. Yeah.
I'm wondering where I can cut there so that I can get that sentence in there.
You don't even have to redact it. You could just leave the whole thing in and include the part where I say, never mind.
Yeah. All right, it'll work out. It's going to cut together some way.
Or do you want me to just re-say that whole thing again?
Yeah,
I forgot what I just said. Something about, when you're touring with other comics, it makes it easier to share travel costs. So you can share your accommodations and gas, and don't support.
Okay. All right, something will work from that. What else is happening that you can talk about?
Yeah, I'm just I'm gigging a lot, just performing as much as I can all over the city, and it's been really good. I really didn't know what to expect moving to Toronto, and I was definitely a bit intimidated by this city when I moved here, and I was kind of worried that it was going to be tougher to break into the scene here than it has been. I was worried that people were going to be like snobby and cliquey and mean. That was just my perception of big city folks, but they haven't been. They've been really lovely, and I've been just feeling really at home here, and I'm really grateful for that, and grateful for how quickly I was able to make contacts and how readily I'm getting booked, and it's been just really encouraging and been really fun. So yeah, I'm all over the city. I'm doing all kinds of different bars, different clubs, working with all different bookers and all different comics, and yeah, most of them have been really great. I recently got to open for Sam Talent, and that was very exciting. He's kind of a bigger name from the States. He wrote a book called Running the Light. It's achieved like quite the amount of acclaim. A lot of big name comics are touting it as the best book ever written by stand-up comedy or about stand-up comedy. I think that was a direct quote from Doug Stanhope, but a lot of comics are really giving it like big praise, and I'm in the middle of reading it myself, and it is really good. That was a big opportunity. It was very exciting. I'm trying to think of what other exciting shows I've had lately. I mean, there's been lots of really cool comics I've connected with. Like, I don't know if you know Garrett Jameson. He's got a show on Banger TV it's called Heavy Metal Hitchhiker. Pretty self-explanatory, but
okay.
It's a show that he wrote and stars in where he's a heavy metal hitchhiker. The premise is that some band leaves their guitar, I think at like a road stop or something, and he's going to fulfill his dreams of being a roadie. He thinks if he can get this guitar back to this band, that they'll hire him on as their roadie, and then it's just his series of misadventures. It's a really funny show. So when I first moved to Toronto, I didn't know him, but I knew who he was, and I knew we had this connection of both being connected to like the music world and the comedy world. He used to tour with the band Ken Mode and open for them on their show dates on tour.
Oh, hello there.
The German businessman can certainly be distinguished by always wearing a ponytail with his suit. The German businessman commands your attention when he speaks out loud. The whole world goes on mute. The German businessman loves the street that he takes priority seats because he's not like the rest. The German businessman's fiscal year end is completely pegged in a skyward trend. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is safe. Nothing is pure. Tragedy becomes comedy. The German businessman's a powerful lover, an aerodynamic, super slick cover. The German businessman is known to dance. His favorite sport is classical house trance. The German businessman's proposal for you, which you are free to deny if you so choose. The German businessman's amphetamine high. He'll beat you to the punch. You can bet your right eye. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is safe. Nothing is pure. Tragedy becomes comedy. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is safe. Nothing is pure. Tragedy becomes comedy. The German businessman drinks bottles of menthol liquor to keep the breath fresh and confidence thicker. The German businessman likes quiet music with his meal. He's like the Autobahn and pure speed is his deal. The German businessman's the ultimate kissing fix. He hasn't paid for a bus ride since 1996. The German businessman's
Off Ken Mode's Nerve EP, that was The German Businessman. Check out the description of this episode for more information about where to find their music.
So he was like one of the first people I connected with, and we're becoming close friends. He's actually going to be performing on my album release party, so that's really exciting.
Okay, so the album release party is May 30th?
It is, yeah. And it's going to be at Comedy Bar, which is where I recorded it. Yeah.
Okay. How much, if people want to attend that, do you know?
I'm still ironing out the details. It hasn't been officially announced yet. I guess this is the official announcement. This is the first that I'm announcing this to the public, but I haven't put the tickets on sale yet or anything, or ironed out the exact details of who all is going to be on it. I've got Garrett confirmed, so I know I can say that safely. But the rest of the details coming soon. I imagine tickets will probably be like $15-20. It's not going to be a fortune. Yeah. Okay. And it'll be a really fun night. So definitely worth coming out. I'm going to stack it with some of my favorite comics, and there's another surprise for the show that I'm working on still. So worth checking back in on that.
I think I've got everything I wanted to talk to you about covered, but what else do you want to tell people? What else should the world know?
Honestly, I think I just gave you the highlights, I think, of everything I can think of that I've got going on right now. Oh, I will plug, I mentioned that I have 18 different side hustles. I will plug my friend Preston's guitar pedal company. They're called Wounded Paw, and I have been building circuit boards for his guitar pedals for the past little while. It's been fun for me to learn how to do that. And it's also been a fun way for me to stay connected to the music world, despite not being in bands these days or booking shows anymore. And his pedals are really sick. They're really good pedals. They've got a really good reputation. The reason he brought me on board is that he was getting more orders than he could fill. People are loving these pedals. So yeah, check them out.
And that's Preston, Wounded Paw. I'm trying to remember the name of his old band. He had an amazing band in the...
He's been in a lot of bands. He's currently in he's currently in 2 bands. One's called Lost Agony, and one's called Armed and Hammered. Most recently, just before Lost Agony, was in IDNS. You might be thinking of that band. Now, I feel bad that I can't, off the top of my head, list every band he's ever been in. There's been a bunch.
Oh, yeah. He's been doing it since this band was around maybe 92, 93 or something.
Not far back. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that I know this, and I feel like a jerk for not being able to think of it right now.
That's going to be half the podcast. It's going to be like,
just trying to remember Preston's bands. Yes. And I would look it up, but I'm filming this on my phone. Yeah, you check out all of Preston's bands. They were all really sick.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Space
Beamer or wet. That's right.
That was Bernice by The Spasms, which was the mystery band Preston was in that I was trying to remember during my conversation with Bones. Bernice was on their self-titled 7-inch released in 1997 by Wounded Paw Records. So I was off by a few years when I was guessing 1992 or 93 as the era they were formed in. Anyways, they were an amazing Toronto punk band, and if you can find their music, I suggest you give it a listen.
He's done a lot. Like, he's been a huge part of the Toronto punk scene for a very long time. He used to run a record label. He used to book and promote shows. He used to clean up the streets of Nazi fucking riffraff. Like, he's been, a serving member of the punk community for a very long time. Really good guy.
So we'll leave it at support Preston.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay.
What were you going to ask? Was there anything else I wanted to say?
I mean, I think we've nailed everything that you're doing right now and everything that's coming up.
Yeah, and as far as checking out my comedy goes, like, my name is spelled the same way on all the platforms. So if you just spell it correctly with a Z, so it's Bonez Poley, that's my handle on all the different social medias. The main one I'm using these days is Instagram. I have a hard time finding the time and emotional strength to stay frequent on all the platforms all the time, but I do have handles on all of them, and I do have a website, which is bonespoley.com. So if you're interested in finding out more about the album or the album release party or anything else I'm up to, tour dates, anything like that, your best places to find those are going to be probably my website and my Instagram and my Linktree, which you can also get to from both of those places, or they all kind of link to each other. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for talking to me again. And hopefully I get there for at least May 30th or something. Or
that'd be great.
You come through the neighborhood here and play.
Yeah. Yeah. When I start branching out and setting up some tours or even just, some out of town shows, I would love to make it up that way for sure.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to Bones for the interview. Check the description wherever you are listening to this for links to more information about Bonez Poley and the other topics we discussed in this episode. Or visit Wood-stein.ca. That's WOOD-STEIN.ca. You can support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Colin Burrows. Like, share, comment, follow, and support Woodstein Media and this podcast, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.